Hi, welcome to Lisa's Stamp Studio. I'm Lisa Curcio. I love 3D projects, and I decided it was time to do a video featuring one that I think that you can use for lots of occasions. The brand new 3x6 Gusseted Cello bags with Stampin' Up! Create the most adorable things. Wouldn't this be great as a table favor at an event or even to hold a small gift? I'm going to show you how easy it is to create the designer paper fold insert as well as presentation, because it's all about the decoration when you do some packaging. I'm so glad that you've joined me today, so let's get over to the stamp table and let's get started. Here's a better view of this adorable gusseted bag. I absolutely love this size, and just to give you an idea, this is my hand, and I don't have very large hands, but the bag is 3 inches by 6 inches. Of course, I folded it down for this project. This is going to make amazing favors for parties, but I want to show you how simple it is to put together. Here is a template that I created. I'm going to walk you through the steps. It's very, very simple to cut and score. It's 2 7/8 inch wide. And the reason is that the bag itself is 3 inches wide, and you just need a little bit of give, otherwise it's a tight fit and it buckles. And I cut it 9 inches long. My other tip about this project is you're going to want to make sure that you've got paper that when you flip this over, you're not going to worry about the direction. So there were some that had directions on both sides, and when I was finished, I wasn't really thrilled with how this was going one way and this was going the other. So keep in mind what designer paper you're using when it's double-sided. And then we're going to do some scoring. So let me bring in the trimmer with the scoring blade. This is my Stampin' Up! Trimmer, and of course the black blade is for cutting and the light blade is for scoring. I prefer to score on the lighter side. It's easier for me to see. It doesn't really matter. You know, you can invert the score lines. The first one is going to be at 1 inch. So I'm going to line this up here at the 1 inch mark, and I'm going to score. And then the next one is at the 3 inch mark here, and I'm going to score. And the last one is 7 3/4. And here's the beauty of the Stampin' Trimmer is that the arm actually extends all the way out to 12 inches. So you don't have to worry about running out of room to score things. So we're going to move over here to 7 3/4, which is over here, and we are going to score. That's it. Those are the only 3 score lines. Whenever I do a 3D project, I always like to go over those score lines with my bone folder to make sure that I have nice, crisp creases so that the project will hold together very nicely. Here's the 3x6 cellophane bag. Don't you love how nice and clear these bags are? Now keep in mind, we're actually going to put a bottom. It's going to be like a bottom this. So I put my hand to kind of condition the plastic as I slip this in. So we're going to fold this up, and we're going to shimmy this a little bit. We're going to have to play with it a little bit because remember, there's no weight in here yet, so it's going to kind of want to fight you. So there you go. This is going to be to the bottom. Once it's filled, this will be flat, so you don't have to worry about that flopping on you. Okay, now let's talk about the contents. If you followed my videos or blog for any amount of time, you know that I'm a huge fan of chocolate. And these are the Hershey's Nuggets. I like these, first of all, for the quality. Second of all, I like the depth. I buy them in a large bulk bag from Costco. You can get them at Sam's Club too. I found that is the cheapest place for me in my area. And I'm going to wrap these so that they'll coordinate with the outside bag. These strips, and I've cut 6 of them to go on each one of these, is 1 inch by 3 inch. The very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to condition the paper. And I've decided I want the darker blue on the outside, or you can do half and half. That's completely up to you. My original one, I think I did half and half just for fun. And if you prefer a different paper inside the designer series paper assortment that you're using, remember it all coordinates, so it's going to look really cute. And again, I'm just putting my bone folder on here and I'm pulling. I'm not pulling too hard because I don't want to rip it, but it's kind of like when you curl ribbon to go on a package. That's just breaking down the fibers on the paper. Then you're going to use glue dots. Now I've tried everything and this works the absolute best. So I'm going to take one of these, I'm going to put a glue dot on the end, on the inside, here and here. Grabbing one of these. See how the flap goes this way? I want it to stay that way. So I'm going to start this way and I'm going to wrap around. And then I'm going to pull tight and I'm going to seal. So that's one. One more time just so you get the hang of it. And we're going to do all 6. There's another. And here's another. And again, I want to make sure that this flap for the chocolate stays down. So I'm going to go this way and wrap kind of backwards. And glue dot and glue dot. Now, while I'm finishing these, I want to talk to you about my online classes. I've had several of you ask me about them, and let me just tell you a little bit about what I offer. I offer project PDF tutorials. These are tutorials that you can purchase in my PDF library, and they'll download to your computer once I receive your PayPal payment. All you have to do is just go right on there and click, and it's just self-automated. It's really easy, and you'll find all kinds of fun projects on there, fancy folds and 3D projects. I even have a fold-out scrapbook type of card. I think you're going to enjoy what's there. I also have studio stamps in the mail, and this is a class to go where I'll provide pre-cut supplies to make 8 cards, 2 each of 4 different designs, and they are designed by me. They're originals. You'll also receive the stamp set that goes with those cards, so you can create it and keep it at home. And I often include ink pads or a punch or the framelits if it's part of a bundle, which means they go together. Everything is included. It includes the accessories, the envelopes, PDF, color, step-by-step pictures. You're going to love it. It's a great, great tool for you to be creative at home. So check out the online classes tab. All right, those are all now wrapped. I put a little bit of filler in the bottom. I got this at the dollar store because I found that that is the cheapest place for this stuff. And I'm going to put some in the bottom. I probably was a bit generous here, but that's okay. Those chocolates will weigh this down a little bit. And I just kind of threw these in here. I wanted them to look pretty, so of course I kind of placed them. And if you're not as particular as me, you can just throw them in there. I'm going to add all the chocolate to the bag. Now, of course, you could add a gift. This might be nice for a rehearsal dinner if you're going to give your groomsmen or bridesmaids a gift. This might be a fun way to package it. Or a piece of jewelry if you're going to provide it as a gift. So see how this is going to fold over. So those scoring dimensions were perfect. But let's decorate it, because I think decorating these is just so much fun, and I think presentation is everything. So I've got a piece of Whisper White scrap cardstock and a piece of Night of Navy cardstock. And I'm going to start by heat embossing my image on there. So we're going to use the heat tool, and we're going to use the stamp and the embossing powder. The stamp comes from the Floral Phrases stamp set. This is just absolutely beautiful. This stamp actually has a linen look to it. So you may notice that some areas are lighter and darker, and I think it was just made gorgeous, just gorgeous. And you're going to find that that actually picks up in the ink when you stamp. So I'm using the Whisper White Craft ink pad. Now, craft ink pads are very slow to dry, which makes them perfect for heat embossing. But I want to make sure I get a clean image, so I always like to use my embossing buddy. This is an anti-static powder bag, and I'm just going to rub it across my cardstock where I'm going to stamp. And what that does is it tells the powder not to stick where there is an ink, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. Now, this is a foam pad just like our others, but it is very squishy because it's a different type of ink. Now, this ink is also permanent, which makes it great for fabric. And again, you can see that linen look, how we've got some light and dark areas. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stamp that right here in the center. Lots of firm, even pressure. I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to bring over the embossing powder. This is white embossing powder. I'm going to work over a coffee filter so I can catch the excess and put it back in the bottle. I'm going to generously pour over the image. Now, remember I told you about the embossing buddy? Had I not used it, the powder would leave little flecks on here. And then when you heat set it, that's what would happen as well. You'd have little white flecks around it. But that anti-static bag is worth its weight in gold, and you'll only need to buy it once unless you do like gazillion cards at a time. I think in my 18 years of being a demonstrator, this is my second one. Really, it's a great investment. So now I'm going to heat set this. Be careful to move my powder out of the way, because once I didn't do that, and let me tell you what a mess that was. The Stampin' Up! Heat tool has 2 speeds. There's a 1 and a 2. The 2 is high. The 1 might be for something like maybe you want to dry the ink without actually heat setting powder. That's what it's for. So I'm going to start in one area at a time. Now, it's going to take a few minutes for the gun to get really hot to its maximum temperature. But once it does, you can repeat images over and over again, and it will retain its heat, making each embossing faster. So what's going to happen, you're going to start to see it, is that powdery look is going to turn more into an enamel crayon type of finish. Now, again, the gun is very hot, so you're going to see me turn my fingers to make sure that it stays away from the heat source. And I'm not skipping all over. You're going to see it kind of go in a little area at a time to make sure I haven't missed anything. Because if you don't heat set it and you miss it, the powder will wipe right off. So you definitely want to make sure you've got the whole thing set. If you hold it sideways, you should be able to see a little bit of a frosted look to it that indicates it's done. And guess what? You can overheat this, which means you'll start to smell a funny smell, and the image will actually turn a tingy type of yellow, which means you've actually burned it. The other thing about pigment ink, which is what the white craft ink is you want to make sure you clean it off your stamps relatively quickly. Now, I have a Stampin' Scrub off the camera, but it's like doing the dishes. One side I spray wet, one side I leave dry. It's a one-time buy as well, and it's worth its weight in gold so that you can get all the ink off your stamps, even if you're just changing colors. So now we have our image. And we've also got a piece of white. And you're going to see on my original one that I actually cut them in an oval. So let's do that next. So I have my Big Shot. And I'm going to be using the oval layering framelits. And these are a metal thin die. And in the package there are just regular ovals and there are scallop ovals. So that's how I did the layering on this. I'm going to use the magnetic platform as a base because you're going to find that these are going to stick extremely well, which is going to prevent slipping when you die cut. You will want to protect this base by putting a clear mat on the bottom. And then I'm going to put my project on the top. And I'm going to put my framelit around it. The great thing about the layering shapes framelits with Stampin' Up, and they come circle, oval, square, there's hearts and stars, is that they're varied in sizes and they stack and layer beautifully. Now another clear mat over the top, so once I've got that where I want it, and that magnetic platform is going to hold that die right in place beautifully. And then I'm just going to crank this through. Okay, so now that's been die cut, so there's our image, and I'll put that aside. I also want a scalloped layer to go around that. So I'm going to place this on my scrap, clear mat on the top. Remember there's one still on the bottom, I didn't remove it, and I'm going to crank this through. I'm also going to give you a little tip. That had I put both of them on there at the same time, one with the navy and one with the white, I could crank just once and save myself a little bit of effort. So let me just simulate that for you so that you understand. So Big Shot, and let's just pretend that I have paper there. I would actually have one of each, and I'd pass it one time, and so that I'd have both done. Here's the beauty of having multiple framelits, even in layering sizes or different designs to go with your stamps, is that you can die cut multiple pieces at one time if they fit on the platform. All right, so we've got the two pieces here, and I am going to use some snail adhesive on the back of the oval to attach that to the scallop circle. And see, look how beautiful these layer. There's just a small amount there. Isn't that pretty? Then we'll come back to our bag. Now I will tell you what I did is I put these together and I actually used the handheld stapler. Now I'm going to tell you, I better check on this really quick. Yep, do you see I have pink staples in there? Yep. Let's do a little bit something fun. So I want to show you how we can color these to coordinate with my project. Now you can see here I've took the mini staples, and this one's black with a black Sharpie marker, and this one's red. You do need to use a Sharpie marker. You can't use the Stampin' Write markers. You'll find that they'll just rub off because they're water-based or dye-based. This is just a, Sharpie markers come in every color nowadays. It's just crazy, isn't it? Kind of fun. And they're affordable. You can find them at any of the big box stores or even at the grocery stores. And so I'm using this in blue. Now I realize they're not the exact blue, but heck, they are better than silver, right? So I'm going to give that just a couple seconds to dry. I'm going to load it. And then this comes down. I really like this little stapler. I always check to make sure that I've got it right. Okay. So now here we go. We need to close this, otherwise it's going to flop open. Now you could definitely put a piece of tear tape here to close it, but then you would need two pieces, one to seal it and one to connect it. So this is why I opted for the stapler. So I am going to make sure my pleats are together. I am going to place this down. I want the flat side of my staples to the back because I want to make sure no one pinches themselves when they pick it up. And I'm going to put those about 1 inch apart because I'm going to be able to hide that. But you see how they're blue and they're less obtrusive than they are with the silver? And I'm going to take my image and I'm going to use a few dimensionals. And I'm going to flip this over. And I'm actually going to use 3. I just want to make sure that this is going to sit nice and balanced on my 3D project. When you're making 3D gifts or framed art or any of those items that are 3-dimensional, be a little bit more generous with your adhesives and your dimensionals because you don't want them to fall apart. A lot more filler in this one than in this one, but this is a really easy gift that you can create for parties or to present a gift to someone. Again, I'm so glad that you joined me today, and I hope to see you next week. Have a great day, everyone.